So do you guys think, this is my working hypothesis, and here we can start getting into what actually happened or didn't happen in Baltimore. My hypothesis is that one big reason that there is this seeming sort of just impasse in terms of actually figuring out what the concrete steps are to move forward, whether they're specific to an investigation of McCarrick or whether they're more general, having to do with what you do about priests and bishops who have lovers, that it is this theological civil war that's basically now the big obstacle, because both sides of that war, and of course it's more complicated than just a two-sided thing, but there are sort of broad camps, both sides think that the other side has an agenda that's ultimately about, theological conservatism or theological liberalism.
Oh, the other side definitely has an agenda.
Right,
yeah.
But not us, right? But is that, do you think from sort of being more on the ground, is that actually what happened in Baltimore? Why did that happen?
Judy, you have the first stab at it. I took the last one.
Yeah, first of all, what happened in Baltimore, right? I think we're still trying to answer that to varying degrees. What happened in Baltimore is a good question, but the bishops went in with a plan that they thought was going. They wanted to come out with something that they could hold up and say to American Catholics, "See, we take this stuff as seriously as you do, and we feel your pain, so to speak, and we're going to move forward, and we want you to trust us." That's what they wanted. And privately, lots of bishops would say we have various kinds of issues with the documents that we're going to use to do that. But what they wanted was the win, and to come out and say in a unified way, we care about this stuff. And the Holy See put that on ice with the expectation of this February meeting. I think many people think, okay, so after the February meeting, there's not going to be sort of a unified global strategy on this subsequent to the February meeting, so the can is being kicked pretty far down the road. And I watched bishops who were extremely frustrated with that, and that said to me a lot about how much the bishops understood at least the importance of this issue for Catholics. Now, I listened to them later and thought, well, maybe they don't really understand what this issue is for Catholics, but at least they understood the importance of it, and I think they felt like they were cut off at the knees.
Yeah, I think from the perspective of a lot of the lay faithful, when you ask the question, what happened in Baltimore, the answer is nothing.
Right. And that's, I think, a very fair, that was certainly the right. lead I wrote in my story. Right. But with that, there's a lot to unpack. We had the bishops' meeting kicking off on November 12th. Cardinal DiNardo said these documents were finalized on October 30th. We still don't know when they actually went to Rome. Right. Multiple canonists, JD can speak into this if he wishes, but had said to me that, there are canonical problems, that the letter that Cardinal DiNardo received had outlined some of those. We don't know that. That's not a public letter. But the fact that when discussions on these proposals did start the second day, these proposals, many of these bishops had serious criticisms of it, and I remember talking to one bishop on Monday morning before we even knew that they weren't going to vote on it, and he showed me his, draft of the language, and it was like a high school paper all marked up, and he just was beating his pen on it. He said, "This language is so inexact." So I think for some it was deeply frustrating not to be able to go home and say, yes, we're taking this seriously, but for others, I think some of them went home breathing a quiet sigh of relief as well. And that's a really hard pill for a lot of lay Catholics to swallow.